Shocking incident exposed. Black aviation officer in uniform transforms life after surprising accusations. Captain Marcus Johnson, a pillar of strength and excellence at the Georgia Air Force Base, stares blankly at the wall of his office, anxiety twisting in knots deep within him. A routine flight operation had morphed into a nightmare within hours. The accusations launched by a disgraced officer felt as absurd as they were vicious, threatening everything Marcus had fought for. He could almost hear the whispers of doubt swirling around him, dulling his achievements, sharpening the chisel poised to sculpt the narrative into something monstrous. What if they believe him? The thought gnawed at his core, clawing at his sanity. Marcus's mind raced back to his mother, the steadying force in his life who had made countless sacrifices to elevate him. He envisioned her proud smile fading, replaced by disbelief at the shadows now stalking his reputation. The weight of her expectations settled heavily on his shoulders. Could he face her if this turned sour? The fear of disappointing her was suffocating, pressing down like the high-altitude air he thrived in during flights, eerily thin and suffocating all at once. He thought of the community that looked up to him, and a surge of despair crested within. Out of nowhere, he found himself questioning the very foundation of his beliefs: hard work, valor, integrity. Did these values mean anything, or were they mere whispers drowned out by the cacophony of lies? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The investigation intensified. Confronted by a web of deceit, Marcus felt a storm brewing inside him. The tension in the air buzzed around him like a swarm of angry bees, each flap echoing with memories of his great-grandfather's struggles, heroism tarnished by prejudice. Marcus found himself standing in the shadow of a legacy comorbid with his current fight. The discovery of his great-grandfather's disheartening experience fueled a deep urge for justice. Would he allow the cycle to continue? This wasn't just about him. It was about something bigger. A fight for not only his name but the honor of the lineage that came before him. Every meeting with retired General David Anderson in the musty confines of his office added another layer to Marcus's internal conflict. The old soldier's words echoed with profound wisdom, yet the journey ahead felt daunting, each step toward justice more wretched than the last. Would anyone stand beside him when the truth was unveiled? The general's encouraging nods, intertwined with urgency, highlighted the stakes that had never felt as personally dire as they did now. As the days dragged on, the unrelenting pressure became sharper. Marcus stood at the brink of his career, teetering between fear and resolve, realizing that the impending reckoning might not just threaten his career, but the very ethos he had been bred to protect. Each breath felt heavier, each moment more agonizing, yet his spirit churned with resistance. He was poised, ready to confront not just his accusers, but a system that had long buried the truth. Tomorrow he would address a gathering of high-ranking officials, the air thick with anticipation. Would he reclaim his dignity amid the chaos? Or was he destined to drown, another casualty in a sea of betrayal? The question loomed, leaving him teetering on the precipice of fate. Heart racing, mind buzzing, trapped between the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the future. The morning dawned with a gray overcast, the heavy clouds mirroring Marcus's turbulent thoughts. He dressed meticulously, donning his uniform with the care and precision that had always defined him. But today, the fabric felt different, like a shroud rather than a source of pride. As he stood before the mirror, he questioned the man staring back at him. Was this the same Captain Marcus Johnson who faced challenges with unyielding determination? The uncertainty clawed at him, demanding recognition. Walking the familiar halls of the base, each step echoed with the weight of his impending confrontation. He noticed the glances, the tense whispers shared between colleagues. They were not just curious, they were calculating. The specter of accusation loomed, a dark cloud just overhead. He had always been a man of action, accustomed to overcoming obstacles with strategic aplomb. How could he translate that unwavering focus into an emotional battlefield? The meeting room awaited, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in his mind. High-ranking officials filled the chairs, faces a mixture of concern, skepticism, and curiosity. Marcus took a deep breath, his heart hammering defiantly in his chest. This was a critical moment, one that would define his path and potentially alter the perception of his entire career. Almost instinctively, he recalled General Anderson's advice, replaying the mantra of clarity and purpose the retired officer had instilled in him. "State the facts," he had urged. "Let your truth resonate." As the discussions began, a symphony of voices filled the room, discussing the investigation with varying degrees of seriousness. Marcus took his place at the forefront, and the murmurs faded into his own thoughts. He couldn't allow fear to guide him. He needed to reclaim his narrative. A shift began, a stirring within that pushed back against the rising tide of doubt. He opened his mouth, the words spilling out clear and direct. He spoke of integrity, of service, of the values he had embodied all his life. Each phrase rang with conviction, rippling through the silence like shockwaves. But just as he began to sense the room shifting in his favor, he felt a familiar unease, a disruption that clawed at the corners of his confidence. The antagonist, that disgraced officer, hung heavily in the shadows, and Marcus couldn't ignore the possibility of a counterattack. Would there be deliberate attempts to undermine him, to entrap him in a series of provocation? The thought stung, unwelcome but insistent. As every official in the room listened, Marcus noticed their varying reactions. The skepticism from some, nods of agreement from others. This contrast ignited a fire within him, a desire to transform uncertainty into actionable strength. He began detailing his experiences, weaving the story of resilience, scandal, and truth with an authority that belied his internal chaos. Yet as he concluded, the question he dreaded most loomed. A senior officer stood, eyes narrowed skeptically, a pivotal face in the investigation. "What evidence do you have to support your claims?" The question sliced through the tension, and Marcus felt as though time had frozen. The room was a tableau of anticipation, holding its breath at the crux of revelation. He had no tangible proof, and yet, the foreboding darkness of doubt he sensed was countered by an inner conviction. His heart thumped louder, awareness surging within. "What I have is a legacy," Marcus asserted, emotions spilling into his voice, enveloping the room in a palpable intensity. "And I won't let it be tarnished by falsehood." The atmosphere thickened, and in that moment clarity gripped him. He was not merely fighting for himself but for a cause that exceeded the confines of the room. The determination surged, electrifying every nerve ending. But as the day wore on and the arguments unfolded, a chilling realization dawned upon him. The path ahead would be fraught with danger, and the fight was far from over. The stakes had elevated, and tomorrow would bring further trials that would test him not only as an officer, but as a man. Would he muster the courage to face what awaited him, or would he crumble under the weight of his growing challenges? The answers hung suspended in the air, leaving him poised precariously at the edge of his destiny. Marcus awoke the next day with a sense of foreboding. The sun peeked weakly through the persistent gray clouds, suggesting more turbulence lay ahead. He found it difficult to shake the haunted visions of the previous day's meeting, where doubt had slipped through cracks in his armor, threatening to shatter his conviction. Determined to rise above the emotional chaos, he pulled on his uniform, making the usual adjustments while fighting an inner storm. As he arrived at the base, whispers and glares seemed to intensify, a palpable fog of speculation that clung to the air. Internally, he chastised himself for allowing the concern and judgment of others to distract him. "Focus," he whispered under his breath, reminding himself that every trial was an opportunity for growth. He walked purposefully to his office, intending to solidify his strategy, to prepare for any assaults against his character. Once inside, he sat at his desk and took stock of his resources, the allies who remained steadfast, intelligence to back his claims, and a deep, simmering resolve that had always characterized him. Recollections of General Anderson's wisdom flooded his mind. Preparedness is not just about intelligence, it is about spirit. With that mantra echoing, he began to plot his approach. Armed with knowledge, he reached out to a few trusted colleagues, men and women who knew firsthand the dedication that defined Marcus's career. As he spoke with them, expressing his fears and plans to confront their shared challenges, he felt the camaraderie rekindle the spark within him. These conversations anchored him, guiding him through the labyrinth of doubt that twisted around his thoughts. However, the day took an unexpected turn. A message from the administrative office flashed across his screen, a notification for an emergency meeting. The words, "disparaging remarks" and "internal investigation" jumped out at him, knotting his stomach. He wasn't merely confronting rumors anymore. The tide was turning against him, and the very foundation of his career was on the line. Within the meeting, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. They presented evidence gathered by the disgraced officer, a nefarious attempt to stain Marcus's reputation. He sat, seething with rage masked by professionalism, absorbing every detail. The accusations were laden with half-truths and misinterpretations, designed to paint him as the villain. Each word spoken and every glance exchanged within the room only solidified his resolve. This was no longer just about his career, it was a battle for his legacy. In that moment of heightened vulnerability, Marcus discerned an unexpected opportunity within the chaos. Instead of succumbing to despair, he decided to utilize the emotional turmoil against his antagonist. He would confront the accusations not with a defensive posture, but with a calculated offense. Breathing deeply, Marcus stood tall, forcing himself to remain composed. "I appreciate the gravity of this situation," he stated, voice steady and powerful. "But let's discuss the context and intentions behind these claims." His assertions set off a ripple of murmurs among the officials. They had anticipated hesitation, perhaps even capitulation. Instead, the confidence in his voice transformed the air in the room, igniting curiosity and speculation, not against him, but about the truth buried beneath the accusations. As the meeting unfolded, Marcus dissected the evidence presented, framing it within the narrative of his service and dedication, revealing gaps and misalignments with the actual events. It was a risky strategy, but with each revelation, he felt the grip of despair loosen. He realized he wasn't merely unraveling fabrications, he was reconstructing the narrative, a narrative that highlighted his resilience, his integrity, and his commitment to justice. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting's conclusion, the skepticism in the room was dissipating, replaced by a begrudging respect. Yet the specter of the disgraced officer loomed larger than ever, coiled like a serpent ready to strike. Would Marcus's recalibrated strategy be enough to weather the storm? Or would the lingering threats materialize into something far more dangerous than imagined? He couldn't shake the sensation that the real battle was still to come, and the outcome would challenge not just his career but the very core of who he had become. The echoes of Marcus's confrontation hung in the air long after the meeting concluded. He stepped away from the conference room, his mind racing, but he felt an unusual sense of clarity emerge through the fog of uncertainty. Instead of the terror that had gripped him just moments before, determination began to settle within him. Like the initial moments of dawn pushing through a thick cloud cover, he sank into his office chair, examining the documents spread across his desk. The accusations against him were not just slander, they were a challenge to his very identity, a test he never asked for, but knew he had to rise to. He inhaled deeply, letting the air fill his lungs, nourishing the resolve that pulsed within him. "This isn't just a fight for my career," he reminded himself. "It's a fight for who I am." Marcus decided to harness the energy from the confrontation and redirect it towards constructive preparation. The disciplinary action initiated by the disgraced officer had deepened a chasm of mistrust, but perhaps this could be transformed into an advantage. He began to strategize, drafting a rebuttal that didn't just counter accusations, but also highlighted his exemplary record. With each keystroke, Marcus contemplated the themes that connected his professional journey: integrity, hard work, and community engagement. It was time to peel back the layers of the allegations and expose not just the truth, but also the values underpinning his actions. In doing so, he would craft an image that countered the narrative spun against him. This unexpected direction revealed a hidden competence he had often overlooked: the ability to shape perception through storytelling. Emails flew from his fingertips as he reached out to allies across the base. "I want to gather endorsements," he stated in one message. "I need testimonies that highlight not just who I am, but what I stand for." He initiated conversations with colleagues who could speak to his character, ensuring their responses would resonate with those who had begun to question him. With each supportive email returned, he felt the weight of isolation begin to lift. The very act of seeking help forged deeper connections, reaffirming the camaraderie that had long been a tenet of service. Lunch took on a different tone that day. As he joined a few trusted allies, the light chatter about missions and personal updates served as a balm for the tumult he faced. But within that atmosphere of camaraderie, a tap of urgency struck Marcus. "I know you all want to support me, but I need more than just your voices. I need your insights. What do you think the officers want to see from me?" It was an uncharacteristic vulnerability, but honesty was his shield. His peers responded, sharing perspectives that enhanced his understanding of the internal dynamics at play. What Marcus had once dreaded now felt like a tapestry he could weave, drawing upon threads of insights, testimonies, and collective support. He listened closely, noting strategic names to invoke, stories that would resonate, and concrete examples that could sway any lingering skepticism. As night settled over the base, Marcus prepared to compile the initiate testimonies into a cohesive narrative, a bridge that spanned the fractures and sought healing. His confidence had expanded. He was no longer just addressing a smear campaign, but rallying a movement toward reinstating honor. He felt a stirring within him, stirring the embers he once thought were extinguished. Something vital was awakening, forcing him to realize that the flames of criticism could catalyze a deeper understanding of self-worth and purpose. Yet, before he could finalize his strategy, a message pinged on his device, halting his momentum. The sender's name sent a jolt through him: General Anderson. "We need to talk," it read, cryptic and demanding his full attention. If he was to unlock this new chapter in his life, the general's insights may hold the final piece he required to not only navigate the storm but to rise above it. What awaited him in that conversation might just chart the course of his legacy, but Marcus couldn't help but wonder, was he truly prepared for what the general had to reveal? Would it be the support he needed, or would it escalate the very challenges he fought so hard to overcome? The moment Marcus stepped into the room for his meeting with General Anderson, a palpable tension gripped the air, thick enough to cut with a knife. The walls adorned with accolades and framed commendations felt oppressive rather than celebratory, as the weight of the general's authority loomed over him. He could sense the scrutiny of the general's piercing gaze, which searched for weaknesses in his demeanor. "Sit down, Marcus," the general said, gesturing to the chair across from him. The tone was firm, hinting that this was not a friendly chat, but rather an assessment. As Marcus lowered himself into the seat, he concentrated on maintaining an air of confidence, his instincts urging him to rise to the occasion. What lay ahead could dictate the trajectory of his career and perhaps his very future. "Your recent challenges are concerning," the general began, folding his arms across his chest as if to fortify himself against any weak answers. "I've received numerous reports about the situation, and it's clear there are significant factions within the department questioning your leadership." Every word landed like a heavy stone on Marcus's heart. He had anticipated a difficult conversation, but the sheer reality of it cut deeper than he had braced himself for. "I've been gathering support and countering the allegations, sir. I believe there's a way to demonstrate my commitment to the team and our values," he replied, his voice steady, though he felt a tremor of vulnerability beneath his determination. General Anderson raised an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. "It's commendable that you've taken steps to respond to the accusations, but mere rebuttals won't restore your credibility. You need to show a depth of character that transcends the lies told about you. What have you learned through this journey?" Taking a moment to reflect, Marcus realized that he hadn't just been fighting defensively. He had been forced to confront his own understanding of leadership, identity, and integrity. "I've discovered that the truth doesn't merely stand firm on its own," Marcus admitted, "but requires a clear articulation, an understanding, and that coming forward with my vulnerabilities has strengthened my bond with my team." The general nodded slightly, his expression softening. "It's a beginning, but you must be prepared for what comes next. There will be a command meeting in 2 days, where you will face a panel to discuss what you've learned and how you intend to move forward. You'll need to embody your core principles to regain their trust." The gravity of the situation struck Marcus like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just another meeting. This was a chance at redemption, but also a reckoning. A chance to forge a narrative that integrated both his vulnerabilities and strengths, yet also a moment filled with potential pitfalls. He had always considered himself a leader, but this was a new crucible, one he had never imagined. "What if the panel doesn't see it my way? What if they remain unconvinced?" he asked, the deep-rooted fears clawing at his composure. "Marcus," the general replied, piercing his gaze even deeper into Marcus's thoughts. "You've witnessed adversity that transcends a mere challenge. Your response to these fears, your ability to navigate the storm, will determine if you rise above or succumb to the doubts plaguing you." Fueled by those words, Marcus felt the ember within ignite into a flame once more. This was more than a personal crisis. This was an opportunity to redefine himself in the eyes of his peers, turning adversity into an awakening. "I won't let this define me," he declared with surprising conviction, though inside him uncertainty still flickered. As he left the office with the general's words echoing in his thoughts, real determination fused with apprehension. He would need to craft a narrative that was not merely reactive, but proactive, inspiring, and above all, grounded in his authentic self. Yet, as he began to plot his approach, a different concern slithered through his mind, a discovery he hadn't anticipated, and one that prompted a deeper exploration into the very fabric of his character. What deeper truths would he need to confront before he could present his case? And was he ready for the potential revelations lurking in the shadows of his past? In the quiet that enveloped him once he stepped out of General Anderson's office, Marcus grappled with the enormity of what lay ahead. 2 days felt like a ticking clock counting down to oblivion, or conversely, to an unexpected revival. As he walked through the austere hallways leading back to his office, his mind tumbled over the currents of doubt and determination swirling within him. The stakes were clear. He needed to solidify his stance not simply as a leader but as a man of integrity. Marcus paused at the window of a vacant conference room, looking out over the sprawling military base. Sunlight spilled over the horizon, illuminating the shadows of his doubts. Shadows he knew he needed to confront. It seemed all too familiar, the struggle between perception and reality, his past continually shadowing him. He recalled moments from his past, failures that still stung, ineffectual gestures that had almost constituted his career. For years, he had equated leadership with authority, thinking only the strongest-willed could navigate the tides of command. But this recent cascade of events hinted at a greater truth. If he wished to rise, he must embody vulnerability as strength rather than as a fault. What would that look like in practical terms? The panel wouldn't simply want reassurance, they required proof. He would need to lead a discussion that bounced off his personal journey, a confrontation with both his fears and his values, articulating them so that they resonated. But what part of his narrative would strike the most empathetic chord? What truths could he extract from his journey that would galvanize them? As he sat down at his desk, he opened his laptop and drafted bullet points of critical moments in his career. His successes had been significant, but his failures loomed larger in his memory. He needed to transform those failures into lessons. He jotted down phrases that echoed wisdom, lessons from adversity, character over command, and vulnerability as a strength. A sudden thought pierced through the gloom. What if he shared a particularly harrowing experience, one that was raw and unfiltered? Introducing the vulnerability of an incident that nearly derailed his journey could reveal not only his strength but also humanity. But fear prickled. What if he exposed too much? Would they respect him less? Or would this depth of character ultimately expand their trust? Caught in his thoughts, a knock echoed through the office, snapping him back to the moment. It was Mia, his trusted confidant and fellow officer. She sensed his unease immediately. "You look like you've just seen a ghost. What's weighing on you?" she asked, pulling up a chair. He tossed aside his carefully drafted notes, speaking candidly. "I'm facing a panel in 2 days, and I need to convey not just what I've learned, but who I truly am. I don't know if I can strip away the layers and risk it all." Mia leaned in, her expression serious yet encouraging. "You've always concealed your true self, believing strength lies in perfection. But in this line of work, it's authenticity that resonates. They want to see the man behind the uniform. Every scar tells a story. Every hardship holds a lesson." Her words ignited a new fire within him. It was time to bridge the chasm between Marcus, the officer, and Marcus, the individual. He would share his journey, not just the polished presentation, but the broken pieces that had rebuilt him along the way. "Thank you, Mia," he said, a steely determination settling in. "I know what I need to do now." As they strategized together, Marcus recognized that he was on the brink of transformation, facing not just the panel but the reckoning within himself. The stakes had never been higher. This was not just a test of leadership, but of identity itself. His phone buzzed with an incoming message, a reminder for the meeting, and the question that accompanied it resonated louder than ever. What deeper truths awaited him in the public unveiling of his soul? With the echoes of Mia's support fueling him, Marcus understood. He was ready to confront both his past and his future. But would he be prepared for the revelations that awaited him, which could reshape everything he thought he understood about himself? Deep breath. Marcus felt the tension coiling in his stomach as the clock edged closer to the moment that would define him. The panel convened in the main conference room was set to scrutinize not only his credentials, but the very core of who he was. He had barely slept the previous night, thoughts spiraling through the labyrinth of possibilities, each leading him to the precipice of doubt and resolve. Sitting on the edge of his chair, he feverishly jotted notes, his hand trembling slightly. "Authenticity over perfection," he repeated quietly, as if the mantra could fortify him against the fear gnawing at him. He had constructed a fortress of professionalism around himself, but now it felt awfully suffocating. Could vulnerability truly be the cornerstone of his leadership? Mia's advice echoed in his ears, galvanizing his resolve to face this head-on. The decision had been made. He would unearth that raw experience, one that had shadowed him and shaped his evolution in equal measure. It hadn't just tested his skill. It had unraveled his identity and forced him back to the fundamentals of who he was as a man. As the meeting time grew near, he paced the room, recalling the incident that had nearly cost him everything. A failed mission, the pressure of expectation clouding his judgment, and an act of desperation that pushed him to confront his vulnerabilities. It hadn't just been a moment of weakness, it was a transformative juncture, revealing the stark difference between a leader defined by authority and one characterized by character. The memories flowed back, vivid as though he'd relived them only yesterday. He'd been tasked with leading a small team on a critical operation. The stakes had been high. Their safety and the mission's success lay squarely on his shoulders. But things had spiraled out of control, confusion and miscommunication setting a series of unintended consequences into motion. He had made a choice, the wrong choice, and it nearly cost them dearly. He had learned from the command chaos, yet all that experience had only forged a tighter grip around his psyche. The repercussions had felt eternal, each day after steeped in remorse and shame. But Mia had illuminated a path he hadn't recognized until now. Those feelings weren't his chains, they were his wings. What did it mean to stand before a room of his peers and reveal that vulnerability? Would they still see him as a commander, or merely as Marcus, the man who stumbled? Perhaps demonstrating his resignation to failure would illuminate the truth that mastery was born from the ashes of discord. Performing this painstaking excavation of his identity wasn't without cost. The fear of judgment writhed under his skin. Judgment had been a constant companion throughout his career, It had shaped him, molded him, but it was a double-edged sword. In sharing this truth, Marcus risked not just his reputation, but his relationships with the very people who were meant to respect his authority. He stood suddenly, adrenaline surging as he turned towards the mirror, catching his reflection. Was that doubt or determination flickering in his eyes? He took a deep breath and practiced his opening words, picturing the faces of his audience. Some would understand, while others would likely flinch. The journey of self-revelation had begun. It was almost time. With a final glance at his notes, Marcus felt an unexpected sense of clarity. He would not just recount the event. He would embody it. His eyes sought the horizon of possibilities as he recollected every breath taken in fear and every step towards his truths. The door swung open and one of the panel members gestured for him to enter. Marcus paused, his heart racing. He was prepared to face the ghosts of his past, ready to rewrite his narrative. But one lingering thought creased his brow. Would his truths construct a bridge to empathy? Or would they create rifts that shattered the respect he had fought so hard to earn? The moment had arrived. He stepped forward, ready to confront himself and the panel that awaited his message. What emerged in the next moments could change everything: his career, his integrity, and his very sense of identity. The noise of the conference room faded as Marcus adjusted his posture, steeling himself against the mounting scrutiny of the panel. The stark fluorescent lights illuminated a sea of faces, each one bearing a distinct expression: interest, skepticism, and even indifference. He inhaled sharply, drawing upon every ounce of conviction he had mustered in the mirror moments ago, and began to speak. "Thank you for allowing me this opportunity," he began, his voice unexpectedly steady. "Today, I'm not just here to discuss metrics and outcomes. I'm here to share a pivotal experience that reshaped my understanding of leadership." He felt a fleeting glance of surprise ripple across the room. The narrative was shifting. This was not the typical presentation they anticipated. He pressed on, recalling the essence of the arduous mission that had haunted him for so long. The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. He painted a picture of the chaos, of his naivete as a newly promoted officer, and the fallibility that had ensued the moment he lost sight of his team's welfare. "I miscalculated. I allowed fear to cloud my judgment and I let my team down," he declared, the weight of admission pressing heavily against his chest. "But it was through that failure that I discovered the true nature of leadership. It's not about being infallible. It's about being relatable." Silence followed, thick and suffocating, yet within it, Marcus felt a strange liberation. The fear that had previously chained him began to loosen its grip as he delved deeper into the lessons learned from vulnerability. He recounted moments of doubt, of reconciling his own imperfections while trying to inspire others. He saw how those moments of authenticity forged connections, not walls. Yet as he gestured animatedly, he felt a dark shadow creep into his mind. Could honesty be perceived as weakness? The skepticism in some faces grew sharper, transforming from passive disinterest to active indignation. Would they question his capability as a leader? Had he truly betrayed the ethos he had fought to uphold? Anticipating the upcoming inquiries, and harnessing an unexpected surge of courage, he prepared himself mentally for their potential criticisms. The voices of dissent, which had once been intrusive whispers, now transformed into clarion calls, urging him to prove his worth not through accolades but through experience. His heart raced, each beat echoing like a drum roll signaling a crucial threshold. A hand shot up. One of the panel members, a known critic of Marcus's style. "Are you suggesting, Marcus, that we should embrace failure as part of our leadership ethos? Wouldn't that set a dangerous precedent?" The question rang in the air, heavy with the weight of concern. Marcus hesitated, eyes darting between the panelist and his notes. Instinct pushed him to placate, to assert control over the narrative, but a more profound understanding flickered to life. This was the moment to own his truth. "Embracing failure doesn't mean glorifying it or ignoring accountability," he responded, his voice resolute. "It means recognizing that failure is part of the process, a stepping stone to resilience and growth. Without embracing our flaws, how can we cultivate a culture of innovation?" He allowed the words to sink in, feeling the shift in the audience's energy. Faces softened slightly, curiosity ignited amid skepticism. Maybe they could see him not just as a commander, but as a fellow human grappling with the same battles. Gradually, validation began to weave through the fabric of doubt. Marcus realized in that moment the shift in his identity was not merely about confronting his past failures, but about embracing a new narrative. He wasn't defined solely by the mission outcomes but by the empathy and wisdom gained through his experiences. The session unfolded with further questions, his responses increasingly confident and candid, yet he knew deeper challenges loomed ahead. How would they evaluate this new persona he was crafting? Would time validate his choices, or was he merely courting misjudgment? As the meeting reached its zenith, the panel's verdict hung ominously in the air, ready to redefine his trajectory in ways he couldn't fully anticipate. What would be the true cost of his revelations? Would this risky gamble yield the trust and respect he yearned for, or sow the seeds of division and question in the ranks he had long fought to unify? The moment of reckoning was just on the horizon, and he could feel the stakes rising once more. With adrenaline fueling his determination, Marcus awaited their judgment, newly prepared to face whatever came next. The true test was yet to unfold. What would their decision reveal about his evolution, his leadership, and the fragmented paths he had traversed? As the panel deliberated, Marcus's mind raced, spinning through the myriad interpretations of his speech. The minutes stretched interminably, each second punctuated by the ticking clock on the wall, a resentful reminder of the impending outcome. The atmosphere in the room, once charged with anticipation, settled into an almost suffocating tension that bore down on him. What if they deemed his revelations too personal, too raw? Would they dismiss him as a leader? The weight of possibility hung heavily on his conscience. This was not merely a presentation, it was a crucible intended to forge a new identity. Finally, the chairperson, an imposing figure with a reputation for blunt honesty, cleared his throat. "Marcus," he began, his tone non-committal. "While embracing failure is a compelling narrative, do you believe your experiences translate into practical leadership strategies for our current climate?" Every eye fixed on him, Marcus felt the challenge pulse in his veins. "Absolutely," he asserted, leaning forward, urgency sharpening his words. "Leadership thrives on adaptability. When we encounter failure, we're confronted with invaluable lessons. The true risk is not acknowledging these failures, it's refusing to engage with them." The panelist nodded, a subtle expression of respect flickering across his features. Encouraged, Marcus continued, drawing deeper into his reservoir of experience. "A leader who understands vulnerability, fosters an environment where team members feel safe to innovate, to share their own struggles. That's how we develop resilience." He saw small nods from committee members as he spoke, embers of shared understanding igniting in the quiet spaces of the room. Lifting his gaze, he allowed himself to momentarily envision a culture of openness, one where failures led to thriving ideas rather than defensiveness. Yet, just as he began to feel momentum building, another panelist interjected. "It sounds commendable, Marcus, but adopting such a narrative creates a paradox. How do we maintain standards if everyone is allowed to facilitate their mistakes?" Marcus felt the challenge resonate, a wound he had previously encountered on many occasions. The implications were significant. He faced the dilemma of accountability and empathy. "Leadership isn't about lowering standards," he replied carefully, weighing each syllable. "It's about recalibrating our approach to mistakes. By learning together, we raise the standard collectively, nurturing talent rather than simply striving for perfection." The panel appeared divided, and he sensed the currents of dissent pulling against him. In that moment, Marcus confronted the truth that stirred in him. Had vulnerability truly made him weaker, or had it strengthened his resolve to lead compassionately? As he continued to defend his ideals, he recognized an opportunity to deepen his argument. Questions about performance metrics swirled in his mind. The cold, hard figures often haunted him. They had been both his laurels and shackles, a both demanding gold star performance while suffocating genuine efforts. What if he demonstrated how his transformation wasn't just personal, but would reshape his entire team's output. Let's reconsider the definition of success, Marcus proposed boldly. What if we measure progress based on growth instead of mere results? Growth indicates potential, while results can lead to rigidity. Each failure can offer insight into enhancements we need to initiate. The audience shifted, the golden path of validation beginning to glimmer. Behind their apprehension, he sensed a flicker of curiosity pausing at the boundary of acceptance. The chairperson asked, his voice taking on a sharper edge now. And do you think your peers will accept this paradigm shift? Can they navigate their fear of failure to engage innovatively? Marcus inhaled deeply, confronting the painful truth of his own team. The very notion of acceptance threatened to unravel him once more, invoking memories of resistance and skepticism. They can, he asserted, the conviction in his voice igniting fervor within. But, he realized with sudden clarity, they need leaders who embody this change first. If I want to cultivate this, I have to fully embrace not just the triumphs, but every scar that has shaped me. As silence enveloped the room again, Marcus could almost hear the hum of contemplation settling in. Amongst the barriers and conflicts, he could sense his own evolution crystallizing, a readiness to take a stand and lead differently. Yet, doubt still coiled within him. Would he truly be accepted? Each panel member's expression was a door ajar, intrigue mixed with hesitations, weighing the balance between genuine disturbance and admiration. There was a compelling force at hand, but would it sway their judgment favorably? It's time, Marcus thought as he prepared for their concluding feedback. The question now loomed larger than before. What was he willing to risk to change the narrative? The palpable tension remained, but beneath it lurked a place of clarity, a visceral understanding that personal growth could pioneer collective transformation. The panel was shifting, and with it, Marcus's path was poised at a threshold. The ultimate revelation awaited on the other side, one underscored by the gnawing uncertainty of the choices he'd made. Would clarity emerge from this confrontation, or did the struggle merely deepen the divide? Only time would tell as he awaited the verdict that could redefine not just this moment, but the entire course of his career. The hum of chatter subsided in the room as the panel members exchanged glances. Marcus could feel the weight of their decision descending upon him like a dense fog. Each moment stretched into eternity, teasing the boundary between hope and despair. A palpable shift had occurred. He could sense it in the air. The tension fused into something electric, something vital. Finally, the chairperson nodded to silence the lingering murmurs. "Captain Johnson," he began, his voice steady but measured, "your presentation has been a departure from our expectations, and we appreciate your candor regarding your experiences. It's clear that you've undergone a significant transformation throughout this gauntlet." As the words hung suspended in the air, Marcus took a breath, heart pounding as hope hardened into tangible reality. "We see potential in your approach to leadership, one that reflects resilience and growth," the chairperson continued. "Your willingness to share your vulnerabilities demonstrates an awareness that is vital for engaging a new generation of officers." Marcus felt the tension begin to lift, replaced by an invigorating rush of recognition and respect. This audience, once skeptical, appeared to be slowly unraveling, captivated by the honesty embedded in his narrative. However, we must emphasize the importance of maintaining professional standards, the chairperson said, taking a slight pause. "We need to ensure that this new culture of acceptance is reinforced correctly. We are prepared to support both you and your vision, but with the understanding that accountability remains paramount." As he listened, Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him. He was not just being heard, he was being understood. "Thank you," he responded, his voice steady as he met the eyes of each panel member. "The balance between compassion and accountability is key in transforming our culture. My commitment to excellence will not waver as we navigate these changes. I will lead by example, proving that we can embrace our imperfections while achieving our highest potential." The panel nodded collectively, the atmosphere in the room transforming as if shedding the weight of doubt altogether. With their reactions, It was clear that his words had sparked something vital. "You've demonstrated not just your ability to confront adversity," one of the panelists interjected, voice filled with a newfound respect, "but to turn those experiences into actionable strategies. This paradigm shift could redefine not only your leadership style, but also influence the structure of our operations moving forward." The moment felt electric, and yet beneath the exhilaration, Marcus sensed the gravity of responsibility it bestowed upon him. This was not just an opportunity, it was an obligation to honor their trust and the legacy of his family. As the meeting drew to a close, the chairperson concluded with a decisive nod. "We believe that your journey and insights will inspire those around you. This panel unanimously supports your proposal to implement these changes. Consider this the step forward for both you and the community at large." A surge of triumph coursed through him, vibrant and transformative. Marcus had not only vindicated his principles but carved a new pathway for his command. The air, thick with possibilities, was palpable as he absorbed the promise of fresh beginnings. Upon exiting the room, a wave of his colleagues gathered nearby. Their expressions mirrored his relief, admiration, and an undercurrent of solidarity. "You did it, Captain," one of them declared, beaming with newfound respect. "You showed we can lead without fear." "Thank you all for your unwavering support," Marcus said, the words authentic and heartfelt. "This isn't just about me. Our collective growth hinges on the courage we all nurture. Let's rewrite our narrative together." In that moment of acknowledgement and triumph, he understood that his challenges had forged him into a leader defined not merely by unwavering strength, but by the richness of experience, vulnerability, and shared humanity. As he continued his walk down the familiar halls of the base, Marcus felt different, more profoundly connected to his mission and his peers. He glanced at his reflection in a window. This was a man who had faced himself. This was a man forged in the fires of adversity, who had emerged with his past brightening the way forward rather than shadowing it. Now equipped with a solid confidence and recognized competence, Marcus stood ready to lead change, knowing that true leadership encompassed both the honor of achievements and the dignity of faults. He felt at peace within his skin, an established position strengthened by humility, a legacy he would not only carry but also cultivate in others. This was the moment he had long awaited, an affirmation not merely of his career but of his very essence. He had conquered his fears, embraced his narrative, and emerged as a stalwart beacon of hope for a brighter future, forging connections that transcended titles. But more than that, he had proven to himself that personal growth could indeed illuminate the path for others, transforming chaos into clarity. And so, with steps surging under the weight of fulfillment, Marcus stepped into the next chapter of his life, his resolve cemented, ready to inspire with authenticity and undeniable valor. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because it seriously makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this ending below. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans of overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.